In this screencast, I'm going to show you how you can get started with IntelliJ IDEA. The easiest way to load IntelliJ IDEA is from the JetBrains Toolbox app, which you can download from the JetBrains website. There'll be a link for it in the comments. The Toolbox app gives you the ability to manage the installation and update schedule for all of your JetBrains products and allows you to choose between different versions, including our Early Access program. I'm going to use the IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition for this screencast. When you load IntelliJ IDEA for the first time, you'll see the welcome screen. At the bottom is our onboarding tool, which is great, especially if you're new to the product. The Project tab is where you can go to get started with your project, which we'll do in a moment. The Customize tab allows you to change settings in IntelliJ IDEA for all new projects. The Plugins tab allows you to add or remove plugins. You don't need to add plugins to use IntelliJ IDEA. Everything you need comes bundled with the product. However, as you progress, you may want to explore plugins for some use cases. The final tab is called Learn IntelliJ IDEA, and this is our IDE features trainer. It helps you to understand shortcuts, features, and workflows within the product. You can also access the onboarding tool from here as well. There's another video on the feature trainer on our channel for you to check out. There'll be a link for it in the comments. Back on the Projects tab, we have three choices. Get from VCS allows us to enter a URL from our VCS system. For example, I can enter this URL from GitHub and then click Clone. That will clone the project from GitHub where it's hosted to my local machine in the location that I specify. However, I'm not going to do that one for this screencast, so I'll click Cancel. Open allows us to open a project from our machine. For example, I can navigate to this project and then click Open. However, again, I'm not going to do that for this screencast, so I'll click Cancel. We're going to click New Project, which will create a brand new project for us, including any frameworks that we want. First, we need to give it a name, such as Getting Started. Let's leave the default location and select to initialize a new Git repository for our project. Let's leave the language selection as Java, but select Maven as our build system. IntelliJ IDEA can also manage our JDKs for us, so if you don't see the one you want in the drop-down menu, you can go to Download JDK and select both the version and the vendor, and then click Download. IntelliJ IDEA will download it and configure it for use. Let's click Create. Great, IntelliJ IDEA has loaded our project. Let's accept these messages and note that the status bar at the bottom shows you the messages from your IDE. The Project Tool window on the left is where you can see your project structure, including your main and test directories, as well as other libraries. Because we said we wanted to use Maven as our build system, we also have our pom.xml file. Let's use Command and N on Mac or Alt and Insert on Windows or Linux to create a new file and call it Hello World. IntelliJ IDEA has also added it to Git to be tracked because we selected to always add files to Git when IntelliJ IDEA first created our project. Now we can write our Hello World app. I can get IntelliJ IDEA to add the main method by typing main, and let's write this string first, and then get IntelliJ IDEA to add the print statement with postfix completion. We can do that with .sout. We can build our project with Command and F9 on Mac or Ctrl and F9 on Windows and Linux, or by going to the Build menu and selecting Build Project. We can run our Java main method from the gutter icon on line 1, and this opens the Run Tool window so we can see the result. Let's use Command and 4 on Mac and Alt and 4 on Windows and Linux, and then minimize it. We can also use Command and 1 on Mac or Alt and 1 on Windows or Linux to move the focus to our project window and then minimize it. This makes more space for our code. You can also access the tool windows with recent files, which is Command and E on Mac or Ctrl and E on Windows and Linux. This helps you to find tool windows even if they don't have an associated keyboard shortcut such as Maven. Remember when we created this project, we also created a local Git repository. So we can use Command and 0 on Mac or Alt and 0 on Windows and Linux to view the commit tool window and then choose which files we want to check in. I'll select all my files, add my first commit message, and then press Commit and Push. At this stage, while we have a Git repository locally on our computer, IntelliJ IDEA does not know where our Git remote is, so let's add one by pressing Define Remote. I've already created this public repository in my GitHub account, so I can paste the link here and then click OK. IntelliJ IDEA also needs to authenticate with my GitHub account, and I can either use a token or log in by GitHub. I'm going to use a token. We have 2 tutorials on getting started with Git and GitHub, so if you are new to this area, check out the comments section and there will be a link to those videos. Let's add a for-I loop here, and we can see that IntelliJ IDEA uses live templates to add that code construct for us. Now we can use another live template, SOUTV, to print out the variable. How about we add a new method here, but in the body of the method we make a mistake. You can navigate to any error in your code with F2, and then we can use Option and Enter on Mac or Alt and Enter on Windows and Linux to get the quick fix option. I'm going to rename it, and IntelliJ IDEA is offering up the variables that are in scope to correct it. There is also a rich set of shortcuts to help you get started quickly. First, if you press Shift twice on Mac, Windows and Linux, you'll get Search Everywhere. You can now type in what you want to search for. For example, navigation bar. Let's turn that off. Similarly to Search Everywhere, if you press Ctrl twice on Mac, Windows and Linux, you get Run Anything. We can type Hello World, and we can run our program again with this shortcut. You can use Command and semicolon on Mac, or Ctrl+Alt+Shift+S on Windows and Linux to load your project structure, or go to File Project Structure. This is where you can manage your modules and your project SDK. You can also download additional JDKs if required. You can use Command and Com on Mac, or Ctrl+Alt+S on Windows and Linux to access your preferences and settings, or go to IntelliJ IDEA Preferences or Settings. IntelliJ IDEA is very customizable, and you can search for all of your settings here. For example, you can change your font size or maybe manage the format of your code. Take your time, have a look around, and enjoy using your IDE. Thanks for watching.